Hello, writers. I'm Josiane Fortin, and today I'm interviewing Jessi Hersey. Jessi is the self published author of one book, Lit Soul My Journey Back to Faith. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And please tell us a little bit about you.
I've been writing my whole life. I started when I was 6 years old. And actually, the poetry book you just brought up, Lit Soul My Journey Back to Faith, has my poetry from when I was little until I was an adult. And that's something that's always come natural to me. And I've gone through traditional publishing and a different self-publishing company.
So, why is it that you want to write poetry?
At least for my first book, poetry, because that was my first language of writing, of being able to speak to another person, because I grew up when I was younger with expressive language disorder. So technically I shouldn't have been able to write the poetry or speak as I am to you right now. So I proved my own label that was given to me as a child wrong.
That's good. And why did you decide to write this book?
I wanted to share my journey of going back to faith. So believing in what you don't see, especially in this time of pandemic, which even there's a poem on the pandemic in there. You don't know what's ahead. You don't know what's ahead of you 5 minutes. Well, unless you have a schedule for the day, I guess, but you don't know what's ahead of you or what's going to happen. You just have to have faith that everything's going to be okay and turn out to be okay, no matter what something looks like around you. Like someone's not responding to you that you talk to, and just know that they eventually will. And you don't know the outcome of anything, really. You don't know your outcome of your everyday life. So it's just having faith in everything you do.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, how did you rearrange the poems that you wrote since you have some from your childhood? Is it like chronological order from the oldest to the youngest, or how did you arrange them by theme?
I did by theme in categories. It's broken up into 4 themes. So there is, humanity is the first one. And then finding myself is the second. And then the redemption, the awakening, and the very last one is unconditional love. So humanity just goes over the dark, the good, everything in between, death, life. And then finding myself is literally just me learning about myself through others and myself, poetry wise. And the redemption is just me forgiving myself and kind of what I did to do that through poetry. And the awakening is just waking up and trusting myself more and not seeing everything so black and white, I guess, that everything isn't so black and white. And then the unconditional love is just recognizing and noticing what unconditional love truly is with others and myself.
So did you find those themes after writing all the poems and it just was like a lightning bolt and everything was clear? Or did you kind of find out what your themes you wanted to touch on and then added some more poems so that you didn't have like 25 in the first theme and only 3 in the last theme? How did you organize all that?
The themes just came, like you said, like a lightning bolt. And I didn't keep it like an organized amount. I'd say humanity is the biggest like section. I just kind of went based off of what the theme seemed like in my poem, because some of my older poetry came way later, way later before publishing it, like literally a week before publishing it. So the order of it is literally just based off of the words I used in each poem. It didn't matter what my title was of that poem. If it had to do with the theme of that section, I just put it in there. And I do have a specific order.
So, what is your creative process when you're writing poetry? Do you go based on when you get inspired and it just comes to mind really easily, or do you kind of force yourself to have a schedule to get like an output? I don't write poetry, if you can tell. Like, and I'm very curious to know, like, how do you get creative?
Well, I don't force it. I have my phone or a notebook or my computer because I end up writing in so many different spots. So if it comes to me while I'm at work, or because I work with kids with special needs during the day, so my day job, I write it down in the notes on my phone. if it comes to me, or if I'm sitting in my car waiting to pick up one of the kids I work with, I'll type it on there. Or if I'm sitting at my computer desk writing a story, because I also write in fiction and nonfiction in general, it's not just poetry, then I write a separate page for myself and just start the poetry there. Or my notebook, if I'm writing ideas for my publishing business, if a random poem comes, I just find a specific page just for that. No matter what, my poetry comes out, even when I'm doing business, writing a story, it comes out. I wasn't planning on doing a second poetry book, but because they've been coming out just as quickly as the last one, this one will just be all updated. I will eventually have another poetry book out. Don't know when, don't have a date, but it will eventually come out.
And do you make it rhyme? Does poetry still need to rhyme nowadays or not?
It's fun to have it rhyme, but you don't have to. I don't have every poem in there rhyming. I have some more sonnet style, some more haiku style, some, yeah, they all vary. Like maybe 60 to 70% of them rhyme, but it wasn't on purpose. Some of them I just naturally rhyme with.
Are you self-taught or you learn from reading poems or it just comes out naturally?
Just comes out naturally. It took me forever to be able. The first thing I was able to read poetry wise would probably be Shakespeare's sonnets. So sonnets of Shakespeare was my introduction to poetry.
What advice would you give to an aspiring author, maybe that's kind of worried about not being able to finish the task or not having readers? What would you tell them?
To not worry about those things in the moment, to just pay attention to what you want to write about. It doesn't matter what it is. If you just put down the first sentence, whether it's poetry, whether it's a story or a screenplay, because that is still equally a book. But anyways, to do it anyways and not worry about what anyone thinks and not give up on yourself. And once you come to the completion of your story, just reread it to figure out your audience and make sure to find a good editor, really good one that's specific to your book, because people seem to go towards editors, just whatever editor. Like I specifically for my poetry book only chose poetry editors. I wouldn't go with anyone else from my own past experiences, because I have been in the industry for at least 10 plus years with this. Yeah, and the main thing is just don't give up on yourself, no matter what everything looks like. That's why the importance of even my poetry book title, Back to Faith. Just stay faithful in yourself.
What was the hardest thing about becoming a self-published author? Was it the technical part? Was it finding people to help you? Was it marketing? What was your experience?
Um, Marketing's hard in general, but I guess marketing and making sure that you have the formatting perfect, because I ran into a lot of issues in formatting with Kindle, because Kindle is so specific too that it's only in black and white, which I was upset about that because my poetry book has amazing pictures in it that need to be in color, not black and white. So I had to learn the hard way of, oh, it's going to be this way whether I like it or not. But formatting is the hardest, and marketing is the second hardest, because marketing, yeah, you can go on a billion shows. I've learned this. You can do a lot of all that marketing stuff, and you can have people even review it, your book, and still it's a long journey. You have to continue marketing your book no matter what. It doesn't matter if you do traditional publishing, self-publishing, vanity, you're still the boss of your marketing and getting it out there. And it takes time. It's not a one-stop shop. Even Rumi, the poet Rumi, she started out on the slow slope of getting her book out there, and it didn't start like really, really happening for about 2 years. So it's not just the way that everyone makes it seem like. That's a lie.
Yeah. And are you talking about book shows or podcast shows? What are you talking about?
All shows. For my marketing for Lit Soul, I've been doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube shows and shows in general. And of what I've learned, yes, it does get the word out, but that's it. That's as far as it goes, which I'm thankful for.
So you
So many
haven't seen
ways.
the sales coming from specific shows that you've been on? No?
No, only
Hasn't worked
one
for you?
talk show person that I'll go back on with did he actually buy the book and follow through with what he said. And on that show, I tried weird foods while answering questions about my book.
What has been working for you in terms of promoting your book? Social media or paid ads? What has given you the best return on investment?
I would say just the people I know, because even when I did paid ads, I learned that it's literally just people I know around me right now that are mainly buying it. I wish more strangers would come and buy it, but I have no control over that. But at least it's doing much better than any of my other things in the past, books in the past, way
Yes.
better.
Because you say you've been in the industry for a while, but
Yeah.
you have this book that you're promoting. Did you ghostwrite for other people? Do you have other books?
I had other books, but they're not true to me. And you will still see them on Amazon page, and I think on Goodreads. I've tried to get them off, but I can't get rid of them. So they're just there. I did a children's series. I did a different poetry book. It has some of the same poems, and those ones just weren't true to me. And this
So you
one
don't
is.
market them anymore.
Not at all. I actually unpublished all of them. So if
Okay.
you want to purchase them, you can't.
And you said you were working on another poetry book, and do you have other writing projects that you're doing at the same time?
Yeah, I actually have a new children's series coming out in March, probably 21st. That's my goal date. But it will only be there for pre-order first. And the title is Who You Are. It's a children's series. Well, the title pretty much tells you what the first one's about, who you are. And there'll be a lot more coming out too of that. And I'm attempting a YouTube series too, children wise. I'm working on that. I don't know when that will come out, but I'm working on a Patreon page so I can work with my voiceover actors and my script that I'm writing.
So if people want to know more about you, about future projects, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me everywhere. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me, well, YouTube is the best place if you want updates on my life and just random fun story stuff. Yeah, and Twitter, if you want to see me randomly talking to random people, if you talk to me, I'll talk back, as in have a conversation.
Yes. Do you have a website?
I do. It's www number one and then onenesslove.com, because that's my publishing company. So if you even want to work with me, there's packages on there.
Okay, awesome. I'll make sure to share all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.